come back.
Let's see if he can join now. But Napoleon didn't have a problem getting in.
Let me know when we're ready.
I also sent the link to.
Yeah, airplane mode.
All set?
Okay, there we go.
All right, call the meeting to order at 6:04-ish PM. First order of business would be a roll call.
Okay.
Please.
6:04. Member Shefke,
Here.
member Preston. Member Quirk,
Here.
member Zander,
Here.
member Kidd. Here. And Chair Pro Tem Rymack.
Here. All right, thanks. Next order of business is the approval of the minutes from the Appearance Commission meeting on September 1st, 2022. Anybody have any corrections or changes? It's really only three of us. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Can we do this with three?
That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. I think so. I think for the minutes,
we
it's
have
For the
okay.
minutes? Yeah.
But since we do have some who weren't here who need to abstain, let me do the regular one. I appreciate your moves towards
All right.
efficiency though.
we can do-
So for our members who are new and were not here the last time, just abstain, say abstain when I call in your name. Member Shefke,
Abstain.
member Preston, Hanson, member Quirk,
Aye.
member Zander,
Here.
member Kidd, and Chair Pro Tem Rymack.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so the minutes are approved. Before we get started with the regular business, we have some new membership. We have Takia Kidd, who's new, and we also have Jim Shefsky, sorry, who's also new. You guys were sworn in the fall, I believe, right?
Yes.
So this is your first meeting. We
Yes,
welcome
it
you to
is.
the meeting. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Well, you'll see how it runs. Everything, we're pretty cool about things here. So if we can move on to the regular business. First one is case 2246, 18046 Halsted Street, CD1 Price Cleaners, exterior alterations, and asking for a sign variance. So Valerie, if you want to
Yeah, let
Take
me
over and
share
start.
my screen.
share what you have.
And I
Start
will
with.
give you an overview of the case. Okay. There we go. So, as you said, CD1 Price Cleaners is the applicant, and the location is 18046 Halsted Street. So, just for context, this is that piece of property, and across the street, I believe, is Glenwood. Taking a little bit of a closer look, it is a multi-tenant building, so there's 4 different tenant spaces there. From top to bottom, we're looking at Pizza Hut, Harold's Chicken, or I think now it's something that's Homewood Chicken. The tenant space in question is the third one down, and then the last is Jimmy John's. And then taking a look at that from the elevation, you can see the same Pizza Hut on the right, Harold's of Homewood, that's it. Okay, and then the subject property or the subject tenant space there in the box, and then Jimmy John's to the left. And first of all, I want to talk about the exterior alteration that is being proposed. So the idea is to put in a new window that looks basically identical to the other existing windows. But this one would, the purpose of it, I think, is to put a drop box for after hours deposits from customers. So that would be integrated into the window. There's kind of an example image down here that shows from a different installation how that might look. So pretty straightforward in that sense. The motion provided in your packet does come with a couple of conditions. One is that to extend the masonry sill beneath the new storefront window, just because the architectural drawings don't show it in there, but we want to make sure that looks the same, carry that sill across. The second recommended condition is to maintain a minimum 60% transparency of the windows. You may remember, for those of you returning, this is something we talked about in the fall with other businesses maintaining transparency. And actually, this reflects what will now be requirements from the zoning ordinance when that's adopted next week. So it'll kind of be setting the tone for that. And based on the floor plan, I don't think that would be a problem, the way it's laid out. And then complying with all building code requirements. The drawings are out for review, and I just want to make sure that the way that this the drop box is put in is meeting the reach requirements for ADA and energy code compliance. So those are the conditions associated with the motion for the exterior improvements, and I've broken these out so that you're able to motion or move on them separately, since they kind of may take different paths of variance versus the exterior approval. So then the next part is looking at the signage on the building. The way that the sign code is written, we take the entire length of the building and then multiply it times 2.5, and that's your gross sign area for both ground signs and wall signs. And so the building's 85 feet across. Oh, I know. So that's for the entire building. It's the way the ordinance is written right now. We don't break it down per individual tenant space. It's up to the landlord to kind of distribute that evenly across their tenants. So when this application came in, I took a look and said, okay, where are we at with all of the signage that's existing on the site? There is a 64 square foot pole sign that's been there since the building went up in 2001. And we know the exact sizes of those signs. So that kind of gave us for this site, there'd be 12 square feet of the tenant sign. So I just popped that in there. And then looking at what we have on the rest of the building, when it's all added up, it really only leaves 17 square feet of sign face available for the new tenant while within the letter of the law, which is at 2.5 times the entire frontage of the building. What has been requested is a 56 square foot sign, which of course it exceeds the 17 kind of available by 39 square feet. And that would bring the total sign area for this tenant to 68. So a little bit of facts and figures here just to lay it out for everyone. And these are the renderings provided, the tenant panel at 12 square feet, and then the wall sign with the logo on it. So I'm going to walk through this, the sign aspect a little bit. Within the municipal code, that's where we get the maximum gross sign area or surface area of a sign shall not exceed 2.5 times in square feet times the linear frontage, up to a maximum. We're not hitting the maximum, so don't have to worry about that. And then if a single building is designed for occupancy then by more than one business use, the formula shall be applied, and it's up to the owner of the building shall be responsible for negotiating with tenants in the building the amount of signage allowed for each business. So that's the letter of the law before us. And then as the appearance commission, of course, you also look at the appearance plan. The applicable section here is kind of every sign shall be scaled and designed to conform with relationship to the buildings and surrounds. So those are the kind of the measuring sticks for this evening's discussion. Thought I hit these slides. I'm not in presentation mode. Those are for later. So then I put together a timeline. It's not terribly helpful. So, but I will say, actually, for context, the building was built in 2001. It's gone through a number of different tenants over time, signs changing. I believe from looking at public records, the current property owner bought it in 2017. So when we kind of think about how did we get to where we are with this imbalance on sign face area and who's responsible, that's maybe part of it, is that the shifts and changes never happen all at once that allow somebody to take a holistic view. And so here we are. But I want to also put forward a couple different considerations. I believe the applicant pointed out that the previous sign on the building was larger than 17 square feet. In fact, it was permitted for 23.3. So if you were to grant the same size sign to the new applicant, it would only be a 6.3 square foot variance, so a little bit less than what they've requested. Another option could be foregoing putting in the tenant panel in order to put all of that area onto the wall sign. It's just something to consider. I'm not sure that it's the best option because then there would be a blank tenant panel space, and which might not look good for the village or be helpful to the success of the tenant. But then another option could be cutting off the large emblem to make the sign a little bit smaller, get more sign face area out of just the words. So those are kind of a couple different things that I thought of as I looked at this, of how could we maybe meet in the middle on making this work. And then I kind of touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to talk about how we got to where we are today. And it's been a number of incremental changes. So at the outset in 2001, when the building was built, there was an allowed signage area determined for each tenant. It was to be 21 square feet plus the 64 square foot pole sign. And very quickly that started to grow. Pizza Hut was permitted in, I think, 2002 with a 35 square foot sign. So I think a little bit of this is maybe staff going back and checking their records when we're permitting things. So then as time went on, Pizza Hut added the Wing Street. So that was more sign face area. Homewood or Harold's Chicken became Harold's of Homewood, and their sign face grew. Jimmy John's kind of changed theirs around, but also these have been many other businesses in between. So it makes it hard to kind of draw a straight line from where perhaps we started to where we are. And then one other way to think about this might be to say, what would it be if each tenant were only allowed the sign face area that corresponds to just their width of tenant frontage. So if we took the length of the whole building and divided it equally, it'd be 53 square feet of sign area per tenant. If you took out the 12 square feet for the pole sign, that would leave 41 square feet for the wall sign. So it would still be a variance, but a lesser variance than what's being requested. And if you were to go this route, I would perhaps recommend adding some language about, as the other tenants come in, they must then comply with, being limited to the 53 square feet as granted, or kind of as looked at in this one, because you can see they're all over by about 11 square feet. So that was a lot of math or numbers, but to wrap it up, I want to just provide you with the motion for consideration. Written in the affirmative to approve the case for the variance as proposed in the submitted drawings to 439 square feet for a total of a variance of 39 for a total of 251.5 gross sign area for the property. And I underlined those in case that's something you wanted to change. And if you were to vote in the against it, we would say it in the affirmative and vote nay, just for a reminder on how that goes. Okay, so that is all I've got for you.
Do we have a representative from One Price Cleaners here? Hello, welcome. What is your name? Hidaki?
You can
Welcome.
come on up.
Want to come on up and explain to us what you'd like?
Yeah, so as pretty much everything mentioned in the case here. First of all, City One Price Cleaners is a pretty long name, and that's why it kind of takes a lot of the square footage away as well. So if we even have 1 foot of letter length, it gives us this result. So this is not the lettering wise, it's not really big letters. It just I think it's about 11 3/4.
It's a long name.
Yeah. But it's important to have good visibility to the signage. We're obviously going to be new in the town, so getting the word out there is one way to get the word out there is have that visibility to our signage, and that's why it's important for us to have good decent signage.
Understood. Okay.
And any other question you may have, I am.
I'm
more than
sure
happy
there
to
will be
help.
some. Okay, well, why don't we turn it to the commissioners and see if you have any questions. We'll start with Commissioner Quirk. Any input questions?
Yeah. So my first one is for Valerie. Valerie, you said that originally it was set up for 21 feet per unit. And then you used some words that were very unclear to me, and then it kind of expanded and changed. And so I'm wondering how that occurred. You know, how did it change from having 21 square feet for Jimmy John, you know, et cetera, for each of those buildings? And sir, maybe you want to stay up there too, because I think you had something to do with it as well.
That's fair. I am gonna move this over.
My
here.
guess is several variance requests over time. This keeps getting bigger and bigger. and bigger
Right,
as
so-
well.
Did they-
The strange thing that doesn't totally track to me as I look at the history is that it was 21 square feet per tenant when the building was initially approved in 2001. But that's not, our sign code hasn't changed since 1997. And per that, they would be allowed up to the 212 and a half that's still allowed today. So I'm not sure why it was even set at a lesser amount. So then in between, several variance requests did come through. One was to like add a additional sign on top of the pole sign, which of course was denied. And then I believe as I looked through it more today, it seemed like JJ's Fish Market was in there, but they had 2 tenant spaces. So they were asking for more signage, and a little bit they were given like incrementally. Then there was like, oh, well, there's a maximum amount of 170, so you can have up to that amount. And I'm still like, why are they capping it at that? So it doesn't make the most sense as I go
Why are
back
they
and
keeping
track
it at
it.
170 as opposed to 212?
Yeah. And like I said, I looked, did we amend the sign code? No. So that's not the most clear, which is what makes it really fuzzy. And then over time, I think it did happen that signs were approved without taking a second to think, wait, what is the context of which we're putting them in? So there was some error on staff's part as well. And that's how we've incrementally kind of got emerged to where we are.
Okay, so, but if, you know, this is kind of confusing to me, so I can only imagine how you feel, sir, and that is confused. On the other hand, I didn't hear any other successful requests for a variance to the law in the past. To
In the
change it,
past,
increase it.
It was, I want to say that it was labeled as a variance, but it was still under the total amount allowed. So they were varying from the lesser amount that was previously allowed. So it's really, it doesn't really make the most sense. I don't know what happened, what transpired. So I think it makes most logically, we draw a line in the sand and say, this is where we are now. How do we go forward from here? Because trying to unpack everything that happened in the past will, trust me, I've spent hours working on it and it doesn't lead to anywhere really.
I can
productive.
imagine
Yeah.
I've wangled with myself. Maybe you can answer, sir. So I look at it and I say, well, it started off with 21. And now you're asking for 56. And, you know, I can understand why everybody wants a bigger sign. Totally understand. But I can also understand why we have rules that you need to comply with. So if you take a look at, I'm sorry, I should have done this calculation myself. If you look at the other 3 signs, Pizza Hut, Harold's, and Jimmy John's, do they exceed 56 square feet now?
Doesn't look like it.
They look pretty big signs.
Pretty big
So,
signs.
yes.
So they were allowed to get big signs that were essentially in excess of the amount of space that they were quote unquote allowed by even the 212.
I think, Brian, if we look at total signage, Jimmy John's and Pizza Hut are both at 64, 64.5 right now, if you include.
So that's
The other side.
128.
Now,
That's 128. on
Harold's is
212, right?
55.
Yeah, so that's how we get to what little is left, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like as time has gone by, all 3 of these are new tenants and they were allowed to expand the size of their signs based on what? Pressure from them to you? I mean, the signs are bigger.
No, So I think that they expanded their signs through oversight of looking at the context of the whole, of like what is allowed for the building and just kind of looking at the small piece that was in front of the person at one point in time
Okay, so oversight by whom?
by staff,
By our staff.
correct?
And yet the law says that he's required to enforce this, right? Not the staff. I mean, I like to give you guys all the responsibility in the world. But the law says that he's responsible to impose discipline, shall we say, on the size of the signs, right?
So the law says that it is the responsibility of the building owner to negotiate with the tenants. However, once staff has issued a permit, we've issued a permit, and you can't put that cap back in the bag. So it would have been maybe better practice to require a plan upfront from the business, from the owner, and maybe that's what started that whole like 21 square feet per tenant discussion in the first place, but then the building's also gone through several owners over time.
So I won't ask you, you know, whether that was a good idea or a bad idea or a mistake or whatever, what they did in the past, but I would say, you know, you're basically asking for the same kind of activity to occur now, right? I mean, there was a negative cast, you know, that it was an oversight by staff is what you just said, right? And so now it's not really an oversight by staff, but they're asking to do the same thing. Again, I don't mean to make it sound like but there's a standard that we are required to uphold, I guess is the way I'd put it. And we need staff's help with that. We need staff's help with that. So I presume that all three of your tenants are currently happy with their signs. I mean, they don't want to make smaller signs, right?
I mean,
Right.
we are the new tenants, right? So I'm not really,
Is the
We have
landlord here?
The property owner on the Zoom call, and I could give him permission to speak if you want to.
Because we're on this topic, that was one of my questions is, has anybody spoken to the owner of the property, and has the owner spoken to the other tenants to see how I know? What do they do for a
I thought
living?
he was the owner.
No.
I'm so
New
sorry.
tenant, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Oh, you're the CD guy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
see,
I'm
yes,
so
yes,
sorry. I didn't.
yes.
I'm so sorry, sir.
No,
I
that's okay.
totally understood who
We
you
do
were.
have the owner on the Zoom call. though,
Okay,
and
perfect.
give him permission to speak.
Sure,
so
sure.
we can take care of him.
Yeah, he just asked me for the variance. And,
Although it doesn't look like his audio.
oh,
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
there we
There
go.
Yeah, now we got you.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. And what is your name?
Good evening.
I'm sorry.
My name is Silken Patel.
Well, welcome.
My
Welcome,
name is Silken Patel.
Patel. Okay. Mr. Patel. One of the questions we had for you, have you spoken with the other tenants in the building regarding the new signage going in the variance? Have you?
No, I have not. I bought the property in 2017. And while I had the property, none of the tenants have changed anything or moved out. This, my first tenant is the CD1 cleaner under my possession. And Loya Insurance was the last tenant that I inherited the property from the previous owners.
Understood.
So this is my first time on knowing on this, while at the board meeting right now, looking through all this.
And while you're happy to have a new tenant, are you aware of the variance? I'm assuming you are aware of the sign.
I'm sure, yes, I'm aware of the variance. Yeah, I'm aware of the variance.
And are you-
I'm not sure how much of the variance they've requested, but looking at it, it was around 20, 24, with the adjustments. But I'm not much familiar with what is allowed and what is considered to be a fair for the tenant, I guess. And I don't think, like, once the signs are up, I don't think none of these tenants are planning to move out. They have a long leases. So I don't think that even if I put a request for the current tenants to give an option for them, like, hey, would you be able to decrease your size, and they were literally trying me to take a hike, that's how the leases are stated, but they're already in basically, they would not allow me to do any changes or approve any changes to the current tenant. There.
All right, I understood.
But I just consider.
I missed the
Bill,
last part, sorry.
Bill, I gotta say, I'm having a lot of difficulty understanding what he's saying, and I presume, I think that's
Volume, bless you.
I'm not alone in that. Let me put it that way. And I think that is harming him because, his logic is not being represented here. And frankly, I'd like to hear his logic. So,
The owner's logic
yeah,
for what?
well, I mean, the law says that he's required to parcel out the size of the size of the signage
Right,
according to how much signage is allowed. And I presume he'd sliced it into four.
sounds like he's wasn't aware of the various laws.
Yeah,
That's
but
what I heard. Too,
Yeah.
That he wasn't aware. This is his first time
Yeah.
ever coming to the commission to find out like anything, so he's not aware.
And I believe he said he purchased the property in 2018,
Yeah.
so he inherited it like that.
Yeah.
So what my main concern is, I'm just wondering what the other, although I know you haven't spoken with them personally, what the other tenants had thought about the amount of signage that the new CD1 price was looking at, and if you had discussed this with them at all, because it's the owner's, as per the agreement, it's the owner's responsibility to parcel, like Brian was saying, parcel that up evenly. But I know you also weren't here when it was previously done. So I was trying to get your input, Silken, regarding that.
No, I 100% agree with that. If I had an opportunity to do something like that, I would definitely do it. But
Right.
I was literally handed a whole file, and all these tenants were there since 2001 or two. They're like long tenants. They're not somebody who came in after my ownership. It was all done back in the days, I would say like 15, 20 years back.
Understood.
And this is CD1 Cleaner is my first tenant out of this.
Understood. Thank you, Brian.
but there were changes to the signage, right? Since you had ownership.
I think so.
Zero changes to the
That's
signage.
the only-
Sorry.
So
What-
there have in fact been changes to the signage since 2017. Perhaps we weren't requiring owner sign off. I'm not familiar with the permitting process or what might have taken place at that point in time.
Brian, you have anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've gone round, we've gone round and round about this on our commission. But these signs that are, by the way, sir, I love your building. I'm a customer of at least two of your merchants, so appreciate the fact that you're in Homewood. However, these are all destination businesses, meaning you're going to CD1 Price Cleaners before you're driving down 181st and Halsted, right? And so the sign that's at the curb might be helpful to you. Might say, turn here, but the sign that's on the building is not really a tremendous benefit to you in terms of traffic or in terms of increasing traffic. I'll just leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that, which means to me, those signs are much less important, and in fact, much less important than the roadside sign.
As a point of clarification, I don't think that this does qualify as destination retail. I think that these are all convenience retailers in kind of the larger umbrella of how economics look at it.
Okay,
And one
We
thing
go
I
round
would
and round on that
say
one.
about that is there are about 40 CD1 stores in Chicagoland. And the one with good signage, they tend to do much better than the one that don't have that visible signs.
Brian, you have anything else?
I might have some later, but I'll yield now.
All right, Commissioner Sander.
Yeah, I'm taking another look at this. The numbers clearly don't work, but that's not what bothers me. To modify the sign, first of all, the way it's presented, and this is something the community needs. I use the cleaners constantly, so I'm glad to see it. But it looks good, but the scale, and this is where I'm coming, not square footage, but the scale, as I sit here, I was trying to think, could you reduce the size of the letters? I don't think so, because then they wouldn't be the scale of the other three signs. So I think you want some compatibility in terms of scale. And it doesn't bother me that we may have to seriously consider a variance. But I don't think those letters in any way could be reduced. You need that exposure of that size letter. And then as you look at the other letters on the building, I don't think you want to be half their size. So as we sit here, we're also thinking about what's the solution. I don't see reducing it because of the scale requirement that I would want. And yet we have a trouble with the numbers. So we'll just have to struggle with that and keep talking about it and figure out what we're going to do. Definitely a problem with the numbers, but the scale's right. And it's a good looking sign and it's very well presented. As I sit here, I'm trying to work through this. I don't know, does the one price cleaners sign on the other locations have that circle with the hanger in it? Is it?
Yes.
They're all like that.
Yes, all of the signs of City One Price stores, they have the logo.
But members, and to your point, I think that if you're looking for a way to reduce the numbers while still having an impactful sign, I think the round logo is the place that could give a little, and it helps to point out that the way that we measure your sign area is in a contiguous box around everything. And so the sign or the logo is about 2 feet in diameter. So it's like a 4x4, and then the letters actually sit within that sum. So if the round were to come down some, it would actually take off a lot of calculated sign space area without changing the height of the letters. So there is a little bit of like wiggle room in that sense.
If this is a corporate, the signage is probably made up somewhere. If 42 other locations have the same sign, it's probably not just on a piece of paper somewhere, ready to be manufactured. This thing might even be built. So I'm trying to think of what a solution might be. And again, I don't think you want to reduce the size of those letters. That's the first thing you might think about. That's a good looking sign and it's necessary. I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to approach this.
Does it make any sense for you, sir, to eliminate the hanger circle at all? I mean, totally.
It's gonna be very like half done kind of sign. That logo is part of the City One identity, so it's very important. Like, other signage like Jimmy John's, right? Or the Pizza Hut, they have the logo. Those logos are pretty big, important part of the sign.
Would you reducing the size of the?
That can be done, yes, yeah.
Member Zander, you have anything else at the moment?
No,
Always come back.
nothing else.
Okay, Member Kidd, do you have any input?
I don't know, I ain't asked, I'm sorry, I didn't know there was order.
Whatever, we just kind of,
Okay,
I
that's
was
good.
looking at
So
you,
I
so.
asked while we were speaking, so,
okay,
no.
all right, Member Shefkey.
Point of disclosure, my prior job, I worked for their property tax appeals for Silken. Hi, Silken.
Oh.
I agree.
How you
Bob.
doing?
I'm doing well. It's that time again, but I don't do it, so good luck. Sometimes corporations do allow different sizes of logos. Yeah, and they probably have in their franchise agreement, right?
Right,
Probably have some sort of
right. So,
previously done, and there may even be other locations where they've done that. So it might be worth disclosing. Or
I think,
exploring
just
that.
in support of that, if you look around, McDonald's, the biggest tuna in the nation, right? Their sign, their logo is the Golden Arches. If you look at individuals, businesses from one to other, there is a huge amount of difference. There's no, they're all different, let me put it that way. And they're all different based on the requirement that they meet local ordinances.
Well, I don't know what your franchise agreement says, though, so that might be a way of avoiding this whole thing.
yeah, so as Valerie said here, we could scale that a little bit down to without minimizing the letters.
Yeah, you don't want to
Just-
do that.
Right, rearrange the spacing between the letters and reduce that logo to maybe, I don't know, I'm just guessing 3 by 3, and that reduces everything to, I don't know how much that's gonna reduce, maybe about 15, 16 square foot altogether. That could be, yeah, one way to do it.
Anything else?
That's all I have. Good luck.
All right. Well, one of the things I've always tried to do is equity. I've tried to find some equity. Although it's a bit different with this because the signage variances seem to get bigger and bigger for this particular building and for the businesses at this building. What caught my eye was something Valerie said regarding, because we have to do something here. Regarding 50, what was it, 52 or 53 feet maximum per company that's in there and in each one, and some kind of language stating that in the future, they must, anybody tenants coming in, new ones must stick to that. I'm not a big, as you guys know, I'm not a real big person on allowing variances, especially along Falstead. I just don't. You're going to be seen. I'm not worried about you being seen. So I'm thinking, my thought process was really hooked by what Valerie was saying regarding equitable signage, a maximum, and we've got to stick to it. However, I don't know, I'm like John, I'm trying to think of exactly how to word all this and how to make it work. Making the logo, the circle smaller certainly will reduce your space. I know it's a corporate thing. I understand that it almost needs to stay there. I mean, I'd hate to see it go for you because, just seeing that hanger on there, it's unique. It's something you don't always see. It's going to catch their eye. You also have minimal signage, less than the other three on the sign out front. Although yours is white, black letters, dark letters on a white background, it certainly stands out, even if it's smaller. That stands out among the others. People are going to see that. And as Brian has brought up, and as I've said many times in the past, if they want to find you, they're going to find you. We've got this magic black box. They just punch your name in there. They're going to find out that you're in Homewood. So I do think we need to do a variance, if we do a variance, to make it smaller. But I'd like to see some equity. I think that's really important among all the businesses. But we have to make a decision here. And one of the other things we didn't talk about was a variance to for the masonry beneath the storefront window, which I think absolutely needs, personally, I think that needs to happen because it's going to look right. It's going to go with the flow of the building, and we want that to be there, I think. And I like the 60% transparency. I know we had a discussion, maybe it was the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, about a store going in on Maple, the tobacco shop, or the one next to it, where their windows didn't look like there was 50% transparency, and that's a must. And I'm actually glad to see that the new number is 60%. And so I'm very much in favor of both of those provisions, but we still have to come up with some kind of decision regarding what are we going to do with this, a variance or not? If so, how much? So Brian.
So first of all, clarifying question, I totally agree with him that that slot there and the change to the bricks and the glass, does that get us to 60%?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they'll be fine on that.
Okay.
And this is more, I wrote as a condition because that rule for the zoning ordinance is not yet in place. My main
What it
concern
will
was not, that the tenant not put up.
That's a vote next week,
something to
right?
Block it from the inside, go slats on the
Okay,
outside.
so I've been thinking about this for like 3 days. And I had a conversation with my son who was talking about baseball. And he said, you know, there's a salary cap on baseball teams, okay? Meaning, you know, that guy can have $100 million to pay for his team, $100 million, $100 million. But if I want to pay my team more, like, let's say I want to pay him $120 million, then there's a tax on me. And so they take that tax and they spread it around to these other guys, okay, to the other owners of the team, okay? So as Member Hermack was saying, I'm looking for some equity here. So I don't want to say, gee, you ought to pay for blah, 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 you know, you ought to pay for something like that. On the other hand, as I said, I was there yesterday, looking around, and all due respect to you, sir, this is not a good looking plot of land. Okay, this is not. The building is fine looking, but that's it. You know, you look at the aerial things here and you look at it from the ground and there's no plantings anywhere. And so I would say,
That's the owner for the building.
I'm sorry.
That's the owner of the building.
I'm so sorry. I keep doing to that. I
I'm gonna
apologize.
put a sign in front of you.
Yeah, okay.
That would be
Mr. Patel,
Silken.
Silken Patel.
Silken? Silken?
He walked away.
I think he's still on there.
Okay, so,
He's no longer, let me make him a panelist again.
okay, so I'm proposing this as a
This is a
as a
sidebar.
discussion point with my fellow members and of course with the owner. But my sort of equitable position would be, let's require you, Mr. Patel, Silken Patel, to put in some additional plantings on the east side of your property and around onto the south side as well. And maybe in that planter area that's between you and what is it, that auto parts store?
Yeah, the Midas touch, basically.
Oh, minus.
Yeah, I just-
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
The Midas
Midas.
place.
The Midas touch.
The Midas touch.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
the
what
Midas
I'm proposing, sir, and again, I'm really very strongly opposed to the variance change, but on the other hand, you know, Homewood likes to welcome tenants like you.
Yeah.
And likes to have people who take care of their buildings and likes to have tenants that don't create problems. And you are one of those, Mr. Patel. And so I'd like to keep you happy, but I'd also like to sort of defend the law. And so what I propose is that we have you put in a bunch of plants. Taller than normal shrubbery, doesn't have to be fancy or expensive, but that's what I propose.
I'm not sure if we can make him. I think we could suggest to him. I don't think our charge is to,
I
but we could strongly suggest it.
not only looked at him when I shouldn't be, but I used the wrong word, and I
So-
apologize for
No,
that
that's
as well.
Two thoughts stemming off of that. And Chair Protem, I think you've taken us in the right direction of can we require that? In looking at this site, it actually doesn't have the Halsted corridor landscaping that we've required on other sites because it hasn't been improved upon. There have been no changes that have brought it before this commission since the building was built.
Isn't that
And-
outside of the improvement plan area too?
No,
No?
it's within it.
Okay.
But the Halsted corridor landscape plan was adopted later than the building was built. So oftentimes when projects come before the commission here, to make changes, and the gas station at, 2138, 183rd Street is a good example. They came in, to get approvals to change the branding and, do some other type changes, and, at the behest of the commission, we said you need to also improve the landscape. So I think maybe outside of the fact that there's a sign variance or somewhat connected, but the fact that we're looking at this change to the exterior opens the door to saying, at this point in time, because of the investment being made on the property, we also need to see the landscape brought up to par with what we expect from other properties.
Okay.
I did put together a slide that looks at what the Halsted Street landscape plan requires. Because the property line is actually a little bit further out, there's a wide enough swath that the landscape plan would require 3 to 4 trees, canopy trees, 20 shrubs, and perennials or grasses across 50% of the facade.
I love that.
The zoning that we're about to adopt next Tuesday kind of folds in the Halsted Street. It's a little bit different. So
Very nice.
for comparison, if you wanted to maybe use
Good.
one of these as a way to come up with something, those are the requirements that if this were a larger, undertaking, we would say you need to come to compliance.
No,
And,
I love
Mr.
that.
Patel has his hand up as well, so I don't know if he wants to chime in.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Mr. Patel, did you have something you want to add to that?
Yes, I heard about the beautification project, and also from Mayor Hopeful too. I spoke to him a few weeks ago, and and I do understand that, I've been in Homewood for about 20 years. So I definitely, I'm not against it, whether it's just a matter of you guys liking it and I can do something like that, that's not a problem. I do like to have my plaza look beautiful, that looks at the quality. And it's a long-term investment. It's not something that I'm, buying and selling out. It's not something that I've left in Homewood for. I've been there for a long time. So yeah, definitely I'll agree with any kind of beautification part of the plaza that I can put my effort in. I'll definitely do it. That's not a question.
We have a village arborist that, we still have a village
Oh,
arborist.
yeah,
don't we?
oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have a village arborist that you could certainly work with, and we would love you to work with, because, flowers, shrubs, bushes, trees, things that beautify also draw people's eye. And it helps
No,
you
it definitely.
considerably. So that's wonderful. I'm glad to hear you're willing to do that too.
I showed you
Great
the
idea
property
bringing it
values
up.
as well.
Property values too. So a great sidebar into that. It's terrific, but we still need to make a decision about, and I agree with you
Okay,
about what to do regarding any kind of variance, if at all, on this. So I guess we need to continue talking about this. I think I know my equitable stance might be to allow a variance up to the maximum size of the largest signage that's already there and no bigger. And then lock hard on that for the future somehow with some wording within, I don't know if it's the code or just this particular request for a variance. So if we're going to be equitable, I think, you could also say an average of the other signs that are there. But I think since we have, it looks like Harold's would be the maximum, it appears, adhere to that. And that might mean bringing the circular hanger smaller to meet that. Would that be something you might be willing to do?
Sure, yeah. That would be-
That's my thought. No.
Okay, I like
Anybody
your
else?
idea. I would just offer one thing for consideration. I think what you said earlier was, once we do anything here, it stays the same. If he folds up
Yeah.
in 2 years, the size of the sign that you're talking about will still be in shape if Joe Fish Shop comes in, right? Then he'll have the ability to have that same big sign.
And so that means if somebody else comes in for variance, we have to have in the language that this commission meeting tonight strongly suggested that nothing is allowed any larger than that sign.
Yeah.
Because then we could have roof signs and stuff. We don't want
Well,
that.
that's not gonna be allowed.
No.
I think that how we word the motion is important, and it could be said, you could add something else, we're allowing this variance, future tenants must adhere to the letter of the law at that point in time, or you could say that this variance is to allow an equitable size sign for this tenant, but as the other tenants turn over, they must adhere to the letter of the law as it stands. With the also the expectation that we'll get a little bit more clarity in our sign code in the event that we miss this. So yeah, we can be a little more specific, I think, in the motion than sometimes we are when it's a more of a clear cut request.
So if we do this, the variance would be to allow for the signage for CD1 price cleaners to be no larger than the maximum size of the other signs on the property, something to that effect?
I'd like to
Yes,
actually
yes.
ask a clarifying point on that.
Absolutely.
Where's the slide? Okay, we look at the sign area as wall and ground combined, but
Yeah,
I think what we're really only focused on here is the wall sign. And you'll see that, for instance, Pizza Hut and Jimmy John's have a larger tenant panel on the ground sign. So I think it might be more equitable to limit it to the wall sign can be only as large as the other wall signs, so that they can't then have like an extra large wall sign because the tenant panel is smaller.
so let's see, what's the maximum size of a sign that's there now? Is that Harold's?
43. Harold's is
Yeah.
40.
43 plus the signage. Okay, yeah, because the other sign, the pole sign, this would be separate.
And by doing that, it actually would put CD1 price cleaners right in line with what they would be allowed if we were looking only at the length of the tenant frontage times 2.5 instead of the whole building, then divvied up. So it would actually, I think, hit the equity in two different ways.
I think so, but how does everybody else feel about that? Or other ideas?
I gotta tell you, I'm just looking at one of the sheets of paper in front of me, and I'm now very confused about this. Because, I'm looking at this sheet right here,
Okay.
and it says that currently Jimmy John, this sheet, I'm sorry. That sheet, it says Jimmy John's is 40, Harold's is 43, Pizza Hut's 40.5. And what's proposed for CD is 56.
Right.
Why are we giving them more than the others?
I don't
No,
think we
so
are,
that's
we're
what
not.
Chair Pro Tem is saying.
Okay.
I'll
I
limit
said it was
their
56,
sign
right.
to only as large as the.
But
the other.
originally, we were asking for more.
Correct, that's what the
Correct.
request is, and you can't grant a lesser.
So
allowance.
you want to give them a
Let-
proportionate amount or the right amount.
Right amount proportionate to what the maximum size of the other tenant sign now that, and it's gonna stay that way. No other tenants coming in can have a sign bigger than that.
No other tenants coming into that
In the
spot or
future, or
into
any,
that.
any spot, any of the 4 places in that building, or however many they divide it up into eventually.
So what you've done is you've scaled down
Scaled down the request,
CD1 price cleaners. You've scaled that, just brought it down in size.
brought it down in size to meet the maximum size of the largest sign there.
Down.
Without
down,
removing the circle.
13 feet.
What you're actually doing is just changing the amount of sign face area allowed. Mr. Patel can determine, and based on, the franchise agreements or whatever, he can determine where to lose the signage, whether it comes out of the medallion or out of the whole thing.
Sounds right.
Does that need to be in the wording I do?
What's that?
Does that need to be in my word?
No, I think by
Good.
just modifying the allowed area, it sets the maximum that you are willing to budge on, while also leaving the flexibility for the design to be sorted out kind of offline.
All right,
Because at
I
that point,
get
if you wanted to make the whole thing one-time logo, and as long as it fits the sign face area, that would be allowed.
that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other input, questions, thoughts, ideas?
I'm just gonna say these words because words are important in these things, and I think it's important for us not to use the words require of them that they do this planting,
Okay.
okay?
Planting part, right?
Planting part, that. I don't want this to be a quid pro quo. In other words, I don't want it to be a quid pro quo. We'll give you the bigger sign if you put in plants.
No, we just scaled the sign down.
No, we're scaling the sign down regardless of plant.
We're scaling the sign down, but it's still not in compliance.
No, it's not in compliance, but
Matches
it's
the other-
equitable to the
matches the
others.
other signs.
That's fine with me.
Right,
But it's still zoning variance,
it is a variance,
right?
yes.
So I'm not saying, we're doing this variance as a quid pro quo, we want them to put in plants.
No,
I don't, the word require, just to me sends the wrong message. All around, to you, the owner, to Mr. Patel, and to everybody else. Yeah, and I think we get sued on top of it. My one tail.
All right,
I'm
so,
putting these on the screen so that we can kind of work.
yeah, because
on
I'm
them together.
working through the wording in my
So-
brain here.
I think if you want to recommend installing landscaping.
Strongly
that
recommend
should
that,
be a
Mike.
part of the motion for the exterior alterations, since that's kind of the thing that triggers then coming into compliance. And that could be a term used as well to come into compliance with the landscape corridor plan, something along those lines.
Can we sort of change that strongly recommend to something like Mr. Patel agrees to,
The owner,
because
the owner, because if he sells.
the owner,
there's gonna
thank
be
you very
other owners.
much, to installing, landscaping. That would, let's see, what did you say before, Valerie, that it would, meet with,
Come into compliance with the corridor plan?
that would be in agrees to install landscaping, comparable to, is what I would say.
Okay.
The new requirements for Halsted Street plantings.
That still sounds like quid pro quo,
Mhm.
any way you look at it. The fact that it's on this sheet of paper sounds like it's quid pro quo.
Agrees to install.
So for context, we do have some authority to require
We do.
further investments that are proposed, which, like I said, we did it at the gas station down the street. They said, we're looking for approvals for the branding. We said, cool, but you need to put in landscaping. We've attached similar conditions on some of the other cases we've seen. It's not atypical to maybe like ask for a little bit more than is offered. when something comes before the commission.
But this Mr. Patel has nothing to do with landscaping. And he's the one that's asking for the variance.
This is correct, but the variance is also approved by the property owner, and that's why we have him present today as well, because that would be his responsibility as opposed to the tenant's responsibility, and of course, the property owner has to sign off on the tenant's request for the signage.
So if the tenant says, if the property owner says, I'm not gonna do the landscaping, he won't get his variance?
Well, he
That's a
already
good
agreed,
question.
right?
He did agree verbally,
Yeah,
but
that's a big difference.
Yeah.
You can call that.
Well,
That's
that
my-
gets
that's
to
my-
the sticky point, because at that point in time, he's probably already got a sign up. because
I think
he
it's
wants
not
his tenant.
landscaping until
I-
May.
Yeah, I know, I understand he
Yeah.
wants his tenant, I understand all the things that you said to me, but it still sounds to me as if it's quid pro quo. You do this, I'll let you do this if you do this for me.
So as Valerie points out, we have the authority to just tell them to do that.
Yes, we do, but now, what does that have to do with this, Mr. Patel?
That, Mr. Patel?
Yes,
we can add more. We can add more to this, though. We can add that to this. That's something we're able to do.
that's not the issue, is it?
But I think
I
to your
agree.
point,
I understand.
it's important to separate the fact that the request for landscape comes with the request for the alteration to the exterior of the building. As opposed to and that's why I have two different motions here too. The motion for a sign variance is separate because that's a different request and also may go to the board for.
So am I doing two different motions here? Two different
That's what
votes?
I'm recommending.
one would be for the top half and the other would be for the signage?
Correct, because
Interesting.
members may also have different feelings and want to approve one
Okay.
without the other, and have two different requests.
Why does it, here's something I don't remember seeing in anything we've ever voted on. Number 3, comply with all building code requirements. That's a given.
It is a
Had
given.
been, is this new?
No,
village?
it is a given. I was on the fence about putting it there because I also always say.
It's not a
everybody has-
bad thing.
Everybody has to comply. I mostly put it there because I did have concerns about the reach, range, and, oh, here's why. Because I thought that if we put that in there, if the permit drawings end up changing a little bit, because they need to comply with the building code requirements and it's still in substantial conformance with what is approved, then that kind of covers the fact that there might be further changes. That's
So
why I put it there.
We'd be seeing that in everything in the future then.
You know, yeah, where I used to work, they put it on everything and I thought it was really silly. So we can't leave it off because like you said, it's a given, it's a requirement of all projects.
I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's kind of a,
Kind of like it.
it's not a bad thing. I'm fine with it. The others are fine with it.
It's
I'm fine.
a reiteration of what's already been done.
Okay, so we have two motions here. Now, the second one is for the variance, but we need to word that
Yeah, let's work on that one a little bit.
the variance to allow for the wall sign at CD1 price cleaners to be no larger than the maximum size of current tenants. And something about in the future, no signs will be larger than the maximum size currently per tenant, correct?
43.
43,
I think it'd probably be best to just put a number in there. so that
43.
In the future, we can hold it to
if we
that
can
number.
agree to that.
Yes,
A lot of people
I
use it.
I like that too.
So what are we going with?
43,
No larger than 43.
43
square
square feet.
Okay.
Okay. Wall signs shall be no larger than 43 square feet Which-
Asking for a look see.
is,
Something to was.
which is the current maximum size, or which is the current maximum size of signage at other tenants, something like
You
that.
might want to restrict that to the other, restricting it to the building.
And-
For the, yes,
Shall be held all future
all
signs
future signs
on this building.
on this
property,
building.
On this
for all-
property.
For each tenant
Yes, there we go.
of the subject property. Or that
Yeah, thank you, good.
shall be held to the same wall sign.
Line squirrel. I say that all the time.
What's this?
No larger than 43 square feet. Property shall be held to the same. I like that wording. How about? We good with that?
yes.
All right, then. Ready to vote? Is there anything else? All right, do I have a motion to recommend approval of case 2246 CD1 Price Cleaners exterior alterations for 18046 Halsted Street as proposed on sheet A210 submitted by Barrett, what is that, Barron's 2 Architecture, dated December 8th, 2022, subject to the following conditions. 1, provide a masonry sill beneath the new storefront window to match the adjacent existing conditions. 2, maintain a minimum of 60% transparency of the windows. And 3, comply with all building code requirements. And finally, 4, the property owner agrees to installing landscape comparable, let's say comparable to the new requirements for the Halsted Street landscaping plan. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
The motion and a second
Discussion.
discussion? Yes.
The number 2, is that what we want to say?
Yes.
Is that clear enough? Is that clear enough? I mean,
60% transparency? Oh, yeah. If it says 50% transparency and anything else we've had. I think that's pretty clear. What wouldn't be clear?
you know, 260. Okay.
Yeah.
If that's clear to everyone else.
Okay, so we have a motion. It's seconded. Roll call, please.
sorry, who made the motion?
I seconded.
You seconded Xander.
Xander made it, right?
Okay, and second, sorry. All right, member Shefty,
Aye.
member Preston. Member Quirk,
Aye.
member Xander,
Aye.
member Kidd,
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Ryan.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, congratulations, that passed.
Mr. Patel, do you understand?
Yeah, you need to do the second motion now.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And we have our second motion for consideration approval of case 2246. CD1 price cleaner sign variance for 18046 Halsted Street is proposed on the submitted drawings for a variance of, we need to change that, right?
Yes, we will do that, a variance. For
Variant,
a
drawing,
variance.
a variance submitted drawings for, is that it?
Or take that out, for the wall type of even motion.
Yes. I'll start again. Approve case 2246, 22-46, CD1 price cleaner sign variance for 18046 Halsted Street is approved on the submitted drawings for the wall sign to be no larger than 43 square feet, and all future signs for each tenant of the subject property shall be held to the same. Do I have a motion?
So,
Seconded?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
Second. Member Shefty,
Aye.
member Preston, member Quirk.
Aye.
Member Xander,
Aye.
member Kidd,
Aye.
and Chair Pro Tem Ryan.
Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you so
And
much.
we're glad you're here. We're glad. I've seen so what's the one price?
It's one price because we have one single price for all gardens.
And what is that price right now? Or
Right
will it
now,
be?
it's 439. Another location, it's kind of varies by location, but a lot of other cleaners, they charge like, long coats, they charge $9-10. We don't do that.
I remember when it was 99 cents.
Yeah,
The
so-
first came, it was 99 cents.
But it's not by weight, it's just by.
It's just gardens for all dry.
Yes, it was 99 cents.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Congratulations.
The logo says
Old business. We got more.
CD.
Yeah.
The logo says CD.
CD.
Did you catch that?
No.
Yes.
All right, we have more. Old business is the commission and development updates memo. Valerie?
I did not fix myself. Let me go from memory. We've got 2 new commission members. I'm kind of glad that we welcomed them at the beginning, very glad to have them with us here. Okay, so going forward, usually you all ask about what's happening on, thank you, Jeremy. What's happening on projects that you see before you, in the past, so there's a little bit there about the past cases and where those stand. I won't read through that. Pending cases, we have that target that then needed to,
Oh, here.
they were changing their plans a little bit, so we might be coming in February for the exterior or site changes. But the big ones that I'm excited about, are the upcoming changes. We've got the new zoning ordinance, which is going before the board of trustees on Tuesday for adoption. And that integrates some new requirements for things that have overlapped with the appearance commission. There are landscaping requirements, some of the lighting requirements have changed, and also things related to exterior elevation. So now it will be part of zoning that they meet these quantity requirements, but they'll still come to the appearance commission for how they meet them. For instance, if they're required to have 50% masonry on a facade, they can put that all as one square block, or it could be striped, or it could be, a lot of different things. And so that's kind of how these, like the zoning requirement, but also the aesthetics and the appearance will tuck together. So I'd like to do some sort of review or training with you all at once that rolls out live, so that everybody's aware of what's going on, but in the meantime, if you wanted to take a look at the document, it's available on our website. And then an update to the appearance plan, so I've talked with some of you about doing this, and my hope was to get started last year, and then zoning ordinance took precedence, so, in the coming month or two, I really wanna start doing some workshopping, getting public participation in, and looking at how we can bring the appearance plan up to speed. It's been 24 years since that document was written, and especially with like the changes to the zoning ordinance, it will be great to rethink that document, give it a little bit more teeth. Right now, it's very kind of broad suggestions. I'd like to make it more of like clear guidelines that can be a guidance to both any businesses or property owners or developers coming in, as well as clear for all of us who are applying it. So and then also the sign code, which is a chapter in the municipal code. So those things we're going to do together, and I've got a lot of ideas that I'll be bringing along.
Regarding that training session or whatever session that might turn out to be, can you guys start collecting, please, sort of notes on or minutes of the sort of problematic issues that have come before us in the past,
Sure.
that have prompted us to have disagreements among us?
Yeah,
You know, there's a couple of us here who have some history here, but then there are also some people who are new, and you know, it'd be good for them to have that, you know, that feeling.
Primer. Yeah, that's a really good idea, and that's kind of what part of what went into the zoning ordinance update was understanding what are the things we're always talking about, and how do we either just wrap it into what we do or draw our line and say no more. So I appreciate that suggestion. Yeah, any other thoughts from?
Well, I see here in
Welcome to Homewood.
Wind Creek, that's progressing. With the Homewood, what about the Homewood part of that? The
The parking garage?
parking garage, anything started with that?
Oh my goodness, you reminded me of an email to respond to, that I lost my inbox there, they are probably coming back again for a sign request.
Another one? Wow.
And I still need to get a landscape plan from them, so, it's a great way to kick off the new year by circling back to some of the things that were left over last year. I don't know a whole lot, Darlene, do you know if they have building permits?
I have not received any permit applications, they've gotten approval for the skywalk. And they got approval for something, I think it was for the foundation for the garage, but they have not submitted a permit application, it was contractor makes and issue that.
Oh, interesting, and
Yeah.
Angela did say that they're working on the underground utilities on the site right now.
Yeah, I
Takes a
just
little
got
time.
a Julie yesterday for the water meter.
Okay,
It's a lot of work.
yeah.
And the brewery is coming along nicely.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're looking at doing a concrete pour, weather permitting, I think Wednesday, next week is what they're looking at. So they're trying to get a couple of things in place, and they're hoping to get pre-pour inspection scheduled for Wednesday or Thursday.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the Shell station looks like it's just been sitting there and they haven't done much.
Yeah.
When are they gonna?
I understood that they were waiting for some things to stock inside and something about the underground tanks, maybe it was getting it filled.
There was looked like a window truck or something there today when I went by at lunchtime. Because of the brackets on the side of the van, you can tell
Gotcha,
it might be
yeah.
on a truck or something.
Okay, yeah, so it's, I think it's been quiet, and we are also
It's
kind of
been
like, what
quiet.
are we waiting on right now?
What about Target? Anything?
Okay, so Target is working on getting their things in order. You know, they came in for the exterior improvements, and then came back and said, hey, do we need to go to the appearance commission to do these landscape changes? And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of changes, yes, you do. So, I think you all saw the packets that I put together for the last meeting that ended up being canceled because Target said, wait, we're changing our mind again.
Yeah.
They are scaling back how many landscape islands that they are planning to put in. So it will be fewer, but it's still going to be a vast improvement over what's currently there. And I have been working pretty closely with them through our village engineer, the village arborist, to do some plan review as they've been prepping to come before you all. We've been giving them feedback. So every time they kind of go, oh wait, we need to go back and rethink things a little bit more, I'm like, okay, then incorporate our comments. So at this rate, by the time it gets before you all really be well done.
Yeah, that's wow.
That's
Okay.
Does the property owner of the one we just looked at, does he have to get a permit for landscaping?
He has to get approval from the arborist for like the plant selection. I don't think they do any other type of permit.
No, you don't require a permit for landscaping.
So, and usually that plan would come before the commission. But in instances like this, it's usually just approved by the village arborist. That's kind of like, okay, we've looked at the other things.
Anybody have anything else? I failed to recognize that we have visitors. Welcome visitors. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about or just visiting? All right, do we have any visitors? Pardon? Observing, okay. Do we have any visitors on Zoom?
No, it was just the property owner and he signed up now.
All right, cool.
You know what, I did want to ask one question.
Sure.
There is a vinyl sign over the Chase Bank.
You don't like that one? Come on, what's the matter?
On where?
On the Dixie Highway side, the Dixie and 183rd Chase Bank.
Okay.
They had the, you know, the real sign.
Yeah.
You know, it's a vinyl sign that says Chase Bank that's covering.
They were missing a letter off one of the sides that said Chase, so I wonder that their temporary solution.
Oh,
I don't
so they're just
know.
waiting for something to replace it.
Yeah, we can look into that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let
Yes,
let me
thank
just,
you very
let me
much.
just add my comment to you, sir, and say, I drove by there today with my my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and they're really picky, but they were just commenting on how ugly that sign is, just from a number of perspectives. Not only the fact that it's, you know, the old one is in terrible shape, but the new vinyl thing is now falling apart. And it's just, you know, that's a prominent corner for Homewood, and that's not the way it should look. Especially for a flush company like Chase, right?
Right.
No, it's on the wall.
Oh, it's on the
It's one-
wall.
Yeah, it's one of those vinyl signs,
Front
like
wall.
when you change
Wow,
ownership.
I did not notice that one.
Okay, I will drive by that on my way.
That's the sign, but that's not the way it
No,
looks
it's
anymore.
it's a vinyl sheet
Yeah,
with vinyl letters on it.
And I'm not sure that, I know I just sent out. So we'll reach out.
All right, well, if that's all we have, then motion to adjourn. Oh, it's not.
before we take a motion to adjourn, I'd just like to point out that Jim Wright never had a meeting that went this long.
I know, I'm known for my short meetings. What's going on? I set the record short one. That was the record long meeting. That was good. Do I have a motion to adjourn at 7:21? Oh, my gosh. No motions?
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? No. Thank you very much. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Darlene. Appreciate it.